Hello, I'm Bobby Savoy, AARP Louisiana State President. I'm an AARP volunteer and also the Fraud Watch Network lead for the Louisiana State Office. Today, we're blessed to have a special guest with me, Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard. Sheriff Ard, we know you're busy, and we certainly thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're happy, really happy to have you share your experience on what fraudulent activity our members might encounter, especially here in Livingston Parish.
Well, thank you for having me today. And unfortunately, there is a lot of things going on in our world, in our country. And I just want to thank you guys for putting this information out because we have to work together to make sure people are properly informed. So we greatly appreciate your
Absolutely.
partnership.
Absolutely. It's what we do at AARP to try to get the message out to not only our members, but age 50 plus and, anyone who has access. So just to kind of to let, folks who might not know what a typical day might be like for you.
A typical day. Well, it doesn't start with coffee. It usually starts with a phone call, and we're in a parish that is tremendously growing, and we've had a lot of I guess you can call trials and tribulations. I mean, we've had the great flood of 2016. We've had our share of hurricanes, more than our share, and so you just never know what's going to happen. And when you have a parish that's growing, even though we've had those shortfalls, it's not stopped it. It's continued to grow, and with growth comes issues, and it puts more on you. So when you have more people, they're good and bad. Good thing is when you have more people moving in for a sheriff's office, you have more people paying property taxes, more people paying into sales taxes, which helps your budget to where you can try to keep up with the mandates and the demands. And so with that, on the flip side of that, it is going to bring in more crime. You have more victims, you have just more things that are happening and just more complaints coming in. So we've always battled with that. I've been here 30 years and I've watched this grow. We've seen a tremendous growth in 2005 with Hurricane Katrina. That's when we actually seen it. And so it's not stopped. And so a typical day with me is you just don't ever know what's going to happen. We wake up with a major drug bust. We wake up with someone, a little kid missing. You wake up, and I have left my house before and ran across several units on a perimeter around my house. Just like, oh, we got somebody done ran in the woods. So it's just always something going on. The sheriff's life is very interesting. I will say that. Some days are not fun. Some days, all days are very interesting.
Yeah,
But
I guess to summarize it, a typical day might not be a typical day.
it's never a typical day with me at
Expect
all. But it's I think the best way to put it is it's always a very interesting day.
Yeah, expect the unexpected.
Right.
So in this digital age, and I guess that's where we have more issues. Things seem to get more complicated. I mean, it's not understandable in things that people do. So, what have you seen as some of the creative ways that scammers might be attempting to target and take advantage of our citizens?
Well, today is so much different than what it used to be because of social media. And there's so many people that like to put a lot of information out on social media. If you want to know anything about a person, if they're on social media, you can find out a lot of information. You can find out where they work at. You can find out who they married to. You can find out who their kids are, where the kids go to school at. You can find out where they're going to be at on the weekends. You can find out when they're not home. You can find out enough information to make a phone call to scam them. And that's where people really need to understand social media is a great way to keep in touch with people, but there are, let me back up, they need to really educate themselves on how that social media works and be careful, because when someone calls you and says that your son or a loved one is in jail and they start using that and getting your attention and they have enough information, to talk you into wiring them money, you're going to wire money. And next thing you know, you've been scammed, because at 2:00 in the morning, sometimes you can't get people on the phone. So we have seen so many different type scams, and we're just in the times that we're in today. A lot of people are very open with their information, and people are taking advantage of that, and they're very bold. If you look at the case we're working now currently, with a guy calling around posing as an actual sheriff's deputy. And he is telling people that basically let me back up, he's actually targeting people that have gotten in trouble and are sex offenders. So that is actually public information. You can get on any website and find who a sex offender is, right? So he's taking that information, he's calling those people, and he's posing as a sheriff's deputy, law enforcement. And he's telling them that, hey, look, you're in violation. You need to bring this and bring that, or you can actually, wire me the money and we can get this taken care of, or you can go buy gift cards. We can get this taken care of. And people really need to understand, we in law enforcement do not do that. We never call anyone and tell them to give us money to go buy gift cards. We never do any of that. If we call you and ask you to come up to the sheriff's office, that's legit. We want you to come here. If anybody ever calls you beyond that and they want you to bring money somewhere, you should go to the sheriff's office to find out it's a scam. So you got to be real careful that these people are very bold. They don't care. They're criminals, and they're looking for opportunities, and that's what a criminal is, opportunist. And if you give him an opportunity to scam you, you're absolutely going to be scammed. I myself have had the phone calls. They don't know who they're calling. They have no clue. It can be an interesting phone call when they do get me on the phone. So it's happened a couple of times. But they call through these apps, and it is a lot of work to try to find out who these people are. And it's doable. It's just a lot of work. And I have a couple of guys working on this situation. We just got talking about with the suspect that's posing as a deputy, trying to find out. But it's just a lot of stuff to do to get to break those cases. So we just got to educate our community and people understand that you really need to ask questions, and always remember the key here is no one is going to ask you in law enforcement, and I think I speak for most governmental agencies, to wire you money or to go buy gift cards. That is a scam, flat out. We don't do that. If we want you to take care of your business, or if we have a warrant on you or you owe a fine, we're going to actually put you in jail. We're going to come get you. And we don't have a place for you to wire money. Besides, you have to come up here and pay your fines, so we can give you your receipt, so we can take the warrant out to make sure you know that the fine's been paid, and we know, and it's a record of it. So, but I also understand how people can kind of fall into that, because that's not the only type scam. We also have the unfortunate scams where we call the romance scams, where you got these and it's all age, but a lot of it is when they target the elderly people and they scam them out of money. They think, hey, I'm in love with you, and they know you're widowed, and next thing they spark a little relationship on this little internet site, and they back and forth, and next thing you know, you're giving somebody money, and they play that I'm a broke card, or I'm going through some bad times, and we've seen that too, and it's sad. And we've seen people get scammed out of a lot of money, and just people need to be really cautious and pay attention to what they're doing. It's very scary.
And that is unfortunate. And when we had these workshops, we tell people all the time, just be very careful. They want to know, well, how did they get my information? Well, they put all of this personal stuff on Facebook. I mean, it's all over the internet, and so
Right.
many companies have their databases have been breached, and that information is out there, and so they just have to be careful. And we came up in a time where we were respectful of other people. Generally speaking, unless we were some kind of criminal, we didn't do those kinds of things. And we take people at their word that they are who they say they are, and they're going to do they're going to do. But everybody's not like that. And so it's hard, for folks that have come up through that time to understand that they are criminals. And that's what these people are. These are criminals that try to take advantage of, especially the elderly. And our members are so much at risk. And so getting this information out to them is just so helpful. And this pandemic, natural disasters, and all of these stresses that we have every day, not even including the big one that these scammers just try to target it and take advantage. And people feel bad, and a lot of times they don't talk about what's happened to them, but they think it's their fault. But these criminals, they target folks, and so they know how to take advantage. And you can be unsuspecting and just fall into to that trap. And I think you've pointed out a few clues that people need to be aware of. That anybody that asks you to pay them with a gift card, that ought to be a clue right there.
It ought to be a clue. But I don't know what, obviously, something happens where people get drawn into that. These people are con artists, and that's what it's kind of hard to watch because they're professional con artists, and I hate to even give them that kind of credit, but let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They're picking out their targets. They're able to get a lot of information, enough information to get your attention, enough information for it to be believable, and definitely enough information to draw you in. And then the next thing you know, you're there and you're in that trap and you have to get out of it. So just be careful of any type of phone call, any type of email, people contacting you and start asking the question. Yes, no one, that's just crazy about the gift cards, but it happens. It's been happening more and more often. And we have caught people where their family members will call us and say, hey, my dad's on the way to buy these gift cards. Could you please get him on the phone and tell him to stop?
Yeah.
And it takes you a minute to kind of talk them down like they have, and it just depends. I mean, you hit that hot button with somebody. Yeah. I mean, if you call me and tell me one of my kids are in jail at 2:00 in the morning, you're going to have me on my feet pretty quick. Any of us. I mean, that's our child. And what's going on? I mean, and you get in this panic moment, and you're going to do everything you can to get them out of trouble. And look, they will keep you on the phone and not allow you to make that phone call and see if it's real or not. Mm-hmm. And keep that, and then they get more information from you while they're doing that, and they may not get you then, and this may happen 3 or 4 times, and then bam, they somehow got where you bank at, got your account number, and that's how these people work. They're very good at what they do, and this is what they do all day long, and they scam people. And I can only imagine how much money people have been scammed out of over the years. It's crazy.
We get feedback from people who have been scammed, and one of the things that they tell us is, if I had just made that phone call, call my son, call my grandson, whoever it is.
Yes.
And those people that come to our workshops and that sit in there have gotten those phone calls, and they've called their son or their grandson to find out that they're right next door, they're in town, and not, hundreds of miles away or in an accident or in the hospital. So
right.
It's just,
and another thing that's scary too is the way that people do so much on their phones now that I can actually send you money within a matter of 10 seconds, right? We can Venmo money. We can do things like that nowadays. And so they're taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
And before you realize what happened, you don't send somebody $1,000.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get it back. And it's just, they really need to be super careful. Yeah. And pay attention. But again,
and unfortunately, we've heard all those sad stories, and like you say, thousands of dollars, and once you hit that button or send that gift card, it's gone. It's almost irretrievable.
Right. It is.
So, Sheriff, we've talked to about several of these distance scams. What's going on in Livingston with supposed deputy charity scams, the contractor scams, the romance scams, scams we haven't even thought of yet. And I guess the main message to our viewers and the general public is just to remain vigilant. And
Yes, they have to do that. Contractor scams. We learned a lot during the flood on contractor scams, and we had a lot of that. I was very proud to see, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but when we had Hurricane Ida hit, we had a lot of. We did have some more contractor scam that actually came with that, but they were so minimal. And it's because, unfortunately, we all had to learn the hard way, right? I mean, let's just call it with the flood, but we educated ourselves in Livingston Parish, all of us. And I think that's what helped, because our numbers were so way down with contractors fraud during Hurricane and after Ida. So that was good. I like seeing that. We still had some cases, but it was not major like it was in the flood. We had so many, we had to pull other people in and investigations just to handle the load that was coming in when people were getting scammed.
Yeah.
So we learn as we go, but unfortunately, some of those won't go away, but they do go down, and that's because people are getting educated. And as we move forward, there'll be new scams that come up. Educate yourself, and let's try to keep that down to the minimum. And I always call law enforcement and ask them questions. That's how we found out about this.
Yeah, it's unfortunate people are at their lowest, and especially after a flood or a hurricane or whatever the disaster
Right.
is. And these criminals come in to take advantage of folks that are just struggling, to get by day to day. I was lucky. I had a very good contractors were hard to find after the flood, and probably even so after the last hurricane. But I had a great contractor that did he did what he said he was going to do. He charged me what he said he was going to charge me, and in fact even gave money back from the retainer. So I was very lucky and thankful. Not everybody was so lucky.
Right. The contractors, they're going to act off your desperation. And that's what happened a lot during the flood. People were desperate to get back in their homes, and you had a lot of contractors took advantage of that. Now, not contractors. Let me rephrase that. There was a lot of criminals that took advantage of that. Your contractors, you have really good contractors. They were not doing that. They know that you're supposed to have a badge ID. They were using those. They're legit. They're listed on Secretary of State website. You can find that information. But these other people, they were just taking advantage of it. They knew that people were desperate. And we've seen a little bit of that actually starting to happen with Ida. But I think a lot of the residents has learned to ask the right questions. And I think that's why it actually went down to a minimum.
Yeah. And I know that you and your staff had a lot after the flood had sustained so much damage. And I know that program that you did with the mobile homes for your deputies was something that I had never heard of, and I thought was great and allowed you to keep your deputies on the road doing the work that they do. And we all thank that.
I can't protect the parish and your property if I don't have deputies to do it.
Correct.
And so in order to get a deputy and get their mind frame straight, you have to make sure their families are safe too, because they're human. And people, our citizens, I know they understand that, but we have to realize that a deputy sheriff, we are held to a higher standard. We have no room for error, but at the end of the day, they're not robots. They're human. They're married, they have kids, and they care about them. And I don't want a man or a woman in uniform coming to your home trying to help you, and they're not in the right frame of mind because they're worried about a loved one. So my job has always been, let me get them whole, and I can take care of this parish. But I have to have my men and women. I have to have them out there, boots on the ground, doing their job, fully focused and not worried about their family every moment of the day, because they're not going to give me 100%. And we learned during the flood, it took us a little while at first, but we was able to get back on our feet, that I got to get these people whole. And when I did, we were ready for the looting. And I mean, you live here. It helped. I mean, we had so many boots on the ground, and we stopped the looting. We was started out with, I think, somewhere upwards to 60 arrests a night, and it went down to 30 arrests a night. And the numbers went down, but we didn't tolerate it. It was I had a no nonsense period. I mean, we were not going to put up with it, and it helped in the long run for sure.
Yeah. Well, we thank you and your staff for your service and protecting us and trying to keep us whole. So, just a few kind of to recap some of the simple steps that we can all take to protect ourselves. You know, if we stick to well-known websites when we do our research online, and certainly be hyper aware of if we're going to donate to a charity, what the charity is, where that money is going, and making sure that we use it for what it's supposed to be used for. And I guess the bottom line is, above everything else, don't give out personal information to just anyone, and don't put it online. You know, I mean,
Right.
we all like to know what's going on in the neighborhood and with our families, but so do those criminals. So, our conversation is winding down, Sheriff. Any final remarks before we conclude?
Well, as always, I'm very honored to be the sheriff in Livingston Parish. I love this parish. I love my citizens, and I also, without a doubt, love that I have most of my citizens here. A high percentage of them, they don't like crime, and they work with us day in and day out, and they don't have a problem making a phone call. It makes our job easier, and it's very seldom are we able to just solve a crime without the cooperation of our citizens, and that goes a long ways. And I just truly appreciate them and what they do and how well they work with my detectives and my deputies, because again, we can't do our job without them. We're only as good as the information we receive. That's something that's been said a lot, but it's the truth. And I also always want to commend my deputies and detectives for doing the job they do, because they give it 100% every day, and it shows. Make some great cases. And again, to the citizens, just be vigilant, ask questions. If something don't feel right, it probably isn't right, give us a phone call. That's what we're here for. Don't ever think that we're too busy to take a phone call, no matter how minor you think it is. And I actually may be the little piece of information we looking to solve the big puzzle. So at the end of the day, just don't ever hesitate to give us a call.
Thanks for that, Sheriff. It's been a great conversation. It's been good talking with you and having you take the time to share your experiences, and especially with respect to specifics with the supposed sheriff's deputy in Livingston Parish, um, and letting our viewers know what some of the simple steps are that we can protect ourselves. So, on behalf of AARP Louisiana, Sheriff, thank you for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. And to our viewers, I want to encourage you to be a fraud fighter. If you can spot a scam and you know some of the tips to spotting those scams, you can stop a scam. So, as the sheriff said, report a scam to local law enforcement. And if you get that call, supposedly, not only this one from the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, but any potential scam that involves you, call his office directly. And that number is 225 extension 1. And we'll have that scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And for help from AARP, you can call 1-877-908-3360, or visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. And one final source is you can text FWN to 50757 to receive bi-weekly alerts from the Fraud Watch Network. Thank all of you who have joined us for viewing this message, and goodbye until our next conversation.